Let's be perfectly clear. Your car is fundamentally a big metal box with an engine strapped to it. Now you could just bolt the wheels directly onto this box, but if you did that, every single journey would be an utterly miserable, bone-shattering experience. Every tiny pebble on the road would feel like driving over a sleeping policeman the size of a small cottage. This is where suspension comes in. It's the clever collection of springs, levers, and dampers that sits between the car's body and its wheels. Its job, and it's a massively important one, is to stop the road from breaking your spine. It's the unsung hero of motoring, the bit you never think about until it goes wrong. Think of it like this. Suspension is your car's knees. When you jump, you bend your knees to absorb the impact, right? You don't land with your legs locked straight unless you have a strange desire to visit the local hospital. A car's suspension does exactly the same thing. It bends and flexes, absorbing the violent shocks from the road so that you, the driver, can sit in your comfy leather seat, listening to the radio and pretending everything is smooth and civilized. It's the crucial buffer between the harsh, unforgiving reality of the tarmac and your delicate posterior. Without it, every drive would be a full-body workout you never asked for. The science behind it is actually quite brilliant in a simple sort of way. The wheels are allowed to move up and down independently of the car's main body. When a wheel hits a bump, it shoots upwards, but instead of sending that jolt straight into the cabin and rattling your teeth, the suspension compresses and soaks it up. The car itself remains relatively level, floating serenely over the chaos happening underneath. It's a mechanical ballet, a constant dance of compression and rebound that separates a modern car from, say, a wooden cart from the Middle Ages. And frankly, I'd rather not commute in a wooden cart. So, in essence, suspension is the diplomat of your car. It negotiates a peace treaty between the wheels, which want to bounce around like an excited toddler, and the car's body, which you want to remain as calm and stable as a sleeping cat. It's the reason you can sip a hot cup of coffee without wearing it. It's the reason your passengers don't scream every time you go over a manhole cover. It is, and I don't say this lightly, one of the most important inventions in the history of the automobile, right up there with the engine, and, of course, the steering wheel. Now, keeping you comfortable is one thing, but suspension has an even more critical job, keeping you alive. A smooth ride is lovely, but a safe ride is non-negotiable. The secret to a car's safety is grip. The tires need to stay in firm contact with the road at all times. If they bounce up into the air, even for a split second, you have no steering, no braking, and no control. You are, at that moment, merely a passenger in a very fast, very heavy metal box on its way to a very expensive accident. Suspension works tirelessly to prevent this from happening, pushing the tires down onto the road surface with relentless determination. Imagine you're driving down a country lane. It's not a billiard table, is it? It's lumpy and bumpy. As your car goes over these imperfections, the suspension is constantly working, extending and contracting to ensure each tire maintains maximum contact with the ground. This is what allows you to steer around a corner with confidence. If your wheels were bouncing all over the place, turning the steering wheel would be more of a hopeful suggestion than a direct command. It's this constant, stable connection to the planet that gives a car its predictability and control, which are rather useful things to have at 70 miles per hour. The two main characters in this mechanical drama are the springs and the shock absorbers, also known as dampers. The springs are the obvious bit. They look like big metal coils. Their job is to absorb the initial impact of a bump, compressing like a pogo stick. But if you only had springs, the car would bounce up and down forever, like a ridiculous space hopper. This would be not only nauseating but also incredibly dangerous. You'd be bobbing along the motorway completely out of control, feeling seasick and heading for a crash. It would be, in a word, rubbish. This is where the shock absorbers step in to save the day. Their job is to control the springs. A shock absorber is essentially a piston inside a tube filled with oil. As the spring tries to bounce, the shock absorber resists that movement, turning the bouncing energy into heat and calming the whole thing down. It's the sensible adult in the room telling the hyperactive spring to settle down. Together, the spring absorbs the bump, and the shock absorber stops the bouncing. It's this perfect partnership that delivers a ride that is both comfortable and, crucially, safe and controlled. Let's talk about the real world for a moment. Specifically, the roads in Britain, which often seem to have been modeled on the surface of the moon. They are a patchwork of potholes, cracks, and poorly repaired trenches. This is where a car's suspension truly earns its keep. When your front left wheel suddenly drops into a pothole that could swallow a small dog, you don't want that sudden, violent drop to send the car veering into oncoming traffic. You want the suspension to handle it with grace and composure, which, if it's any good, it will. The suspension on that wheel will extend rapidly, allowing the tire to drop into the hole and climb back out again, all while the car's body stays relatively flat. You'll feel a thud, of course. Some potholes are simply too big to ignore, but you won't lose control. The car won't be thrown off its line. The suspension has contained the incident, isolating the violence of the impact to that one corner of the car. It's like having a very skilled bodyguard who intercepts a problem before it ever reaches you. Without it, every pothole would be a potentially catastrophic event. The same principle applies when you're driving quickly over an undulating B road, the sort of road that crests and falls like a roller coaster. As you go over a crest, the car wants to become light, and the wheels want to leave the ground. A good suspension system works to push the wheels back down, keeping them pressed onto the tarmac. When you dip into a compression, the suspension soaks up the enormous force, preventing the car from bottoming out and smashing its underside on the road. It's what gives you the confidence to enjoy a spirited drive, knowing the car will remain planted and obedient. This balance is everything. Car manufacturers spend millions of pounds and countless hours perfecting it. They call it ride and handling. A suspension that's too soft will make the car feel like a boat, wallowing and leaning through corners, which is comfortable but not very safe. A suspension that's too firm will give you fantastic control, but will shake your fillings out on anything but a perfectly smooth racetrack. The art of great car design is finding that perfect sweet spot in between, a suspension that is compliant enough for comfort, but firm enough for control. To truly appreciate the genius of suspension, you have to imagine a world without it. Picture this: you're in a car with wheels bolted directly to the frame. It would be like riding a bicycle with solid iron tires down a rocky path. Every single vibration, every grain of sand, every tiny crack in the road would be transmitted directly into the car's cabin. Your teeth would chatter uncontrollably, your vision would blur. The noise would be deafening, a constant grinding roar of metal against road. It would be pure, unadulterated torture. A journey of just a few miles would feel like an eternity. Forget corners. Going around a bend at anything more than walking pace would be terrifying. As the car tilted, the inside wheels would lift off the ground and you'd lose all sense of stability. The car would skitter and jump across the road surface, completely at the mercy of the bumps it encountered. Braking would be a lottery, as the tires would struggle to find any consistent grip. It wouldn't just be uncomfortable, it would be lethally dangerous. The car would probably fall apart after a few hundred miles anyway, the constant vibrations shaking every nut and bolt loose. Modern cars are packed with technology, from powerful engines to clever electronics, but none of it would matter without a decent suspension system. You could have 1,000 horsepower, but you wouldn't be able to use any of it. You could have the world's best brakes, but they'd be useless if the tires weren't on the ground. Suspension is the fundamental platform on which everything else is built. It's the foundation that allows a car to be fast, safe, and comfortable all at the same time. It's the difference between a sophisticated machine and a crude, brutal box on wheels. So, the next time you glide over a rough patch of road without spilling your drink or having to book an appointment with a chiropractor, take a moment to thank your car's suspension. It's the silent, tireless hero working away beneath you, turning what should be a violent, chaotic experience into a smooth, controlled, and enjoyable journey. It allows us to travel in comfort and safety, transforming the automobile from a painful ordeal into one of the greatest freedoms we have. And for that, it deserves a bit of respect.